As I was saying, part of the problem is our students are being norm referenced on a national standard. As we briefly discussed in part 2, what the problem is with norm referencing. Students are not being seen by what they know, but how they compare to other students. 20th percentile in an average of 50 answers right is not the same thing as 20th percentile on an average of 90 answers right. Percentile does not mean how much they know. It means what percentage of the population do they outscore. And that means nothing in reality. A child could have scored 90% of the questions right and still be in the first percentile if the rest of the class scored above 95%. By the same token, a child may have scored on the 99th percentile and still do very badly, having scored no better than 33% if the rest of the population scored no more than 20%. Now, we take this as norm reference on a national standard, that only aggravates the problem. There's no reliability on those tests, on the national tests, for one major reason. Each and every single one of the 50 states and the DC and Puerto Rico have their own standards. Not all the states are teaching to the same standards. California kindergarten standards for language arts are not the same as New Hampshire's standards for the same grade level. Not at all. So we are right here giving the same test to all these countries, to all these states, and they're not teaching the same thing. What do you think is going to happen? Some will score lower, some will score higher. But yet those with the lower standards are going to be showing wonderful results because they have lower standards, easier to meet. While states like California with the highest standards will fail because they are demanding so much more of them. Last but not least, another thing we need to reform in the area of education. We need to make sure we do that other people who are requiring all these subjects to the math in something unified. For example, we're expected to teach open court for about 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours. We're expected to teach 45 minutes of math, 20 minutes of positive action, character development, 15 minutes of standards plus for math, 15 minutes of standard plus for positive action, 120 minutes a week for PE, and then we also have to teach so many minutes of science, so many minutes of social studies, so many minutes of VAPA. One colleague of mine added the thing up. We are, with all those minutes, we're exceeding the current day's schedule by an hour and 15 minutes. Let's be honest. I don't think the teachers have successfully taught all those minutes that they're required because they're unrealistic. What? It's time. The very people making these decisions make up their mind. Do they want kids to perform well, or do they want kids to be well rounded but from low? Do we want our kids to be to have a mile wide but an inch deep, or an inch wide and a mile deep? Personally, I prefer my students to have a foot wide, a mile deep, rather than a mile wide and an inch deep. And that is what I work for. It's time our people who are over there crunching the numbers make up their mind. It's also time that our state stops demanding a minimum number of students for the classroom. We know smaller classrooms work better, but right now, at the school where I teach, we are in danger of losing a teacher because our kindergarten numbers are low. We have 4 kindergarten classrooms, each with 17 children, but since they're not at 20, we're just 3 off from 20. But since we're not at 20, they want to disband the kindergarten class. Where are those kids going to go to? There are 17 there. Each classroom only has room for 3 more. 3, 6, 9. Where are the other 8 children going to go to? Most likely they're going to do a K1, a K first combo, which really is a disservice to the students because none of their needs will be met properly. And you want kids to perform well that way? You want kids to perform well? You want schools to do good? Don't penalize the school for having too few students. Penalize the school for having too many students without proper too many. Don't penalize the student for having a low teacher student teacher ratio. Penalize the school for having too high of a student teacher ratio. Hey, if a school has 17 students to one teacher, the teacher is much more able to teach all of those kids to their levels and to their needs than if the class was at 25 students per teacher. Think, people, think. You guys over there making the decisions. It's time you guys start facing the truth. Use your noggin. You want to educate people? Educate yourselves first.